Just because I'm already sitting here, I just shot one video. I'm gonna shoot another one, and so I'm thinking about compartmentalizing my shit, my fucking videos, compartmentalizing the content, and I'm gonna probably stock on more than I can chew, but that's okay because then I'll realize what I can't deal with, which, as stubborn as I am, I'll try to admit to myself that maybe it's too much and I should reel back, and then I know for a fact that I'm gonna tell myself in my internal voice, I'm Batman. And I'm gonna keep doing it until I'm dead. So, that got dark. My point is, I want to review different media that excites me, that makes me fucking happy, aroused. Cue the Pornhub theme song. Anyway, my point is, I kind of want to do like comic book reviews because I read a lot. I read a fucking lot. Maybe I'll do like a video where I go through all my books, but like I want to go through my shit, and pick one thing, one book, one comic book. Obviously, books would be a little harder because I do a lot of things in between. So like finishing a chapter book might take me 2 weeks, depending. But I do want to make it a habit of like at least reviewing 3 pieces of reading literature a month, and then 2 movies a week, and then like a vlog or 2 in between. Right? I think that fucking works. We're gonna figure it out. But I do want to review a Black Label DC graphic novel that I had backlogged for a very, 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 very long time. And I finally got to read. And it's of my favorite boy, my favorite superhero, Mr. Batman. It's called Batman Imposter. And the reason I want to review this, the reason it left an impression on me, also, just look at the spines. Just, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know about, okay, people do that. There you go. Okay. Kind of. Alright. So, I don't know about you, but I look at the spines of, like, I love the spines of comic books just because, like, it's all part of the aesthetic, man. Like, if the aesthetic goes as far as, like, having a killer spine or, you know, like the flap, this is what the actual cover inside looks like. It's like a white silhouette against the Gotham night sky of Batman on, well, across from Wayne Tower, not on Wayne Tower. And the reason I want to kind of review this, and I love the back too. Gotta look at everything. If you look, like, the aesthetic of this Batman is a lot like the aesthetic of Robert Pattinson's The Batman, who is, by the way, fucking phenomenal as young Bruce Wayne, young Batman. But the reason I want to review this is because it kind of left a huge impression on me. This isn't, like, I know, like, it's nothing new, right, in terms of, so, like, let me open the window a little bit more because it's getting dark. It's a little brighter now. And this will do for this last video that I want to shoot. But the reason I really love this graphic novel, and the reason it called to me, is because, and what's funny is he does have, like, the shoulder pads like Robert Pattinson in The Batman, which is just a beautiful touch. Great timing. The reason that I want to review this and talk about it a little bit is because we've gotten, obviously, like, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, which was very much grounded in reality. And then The Batman, which is very much also grounded in arguably even more of a realistic tone. I would say it's more stylistic than The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is very industrial looking and very very gray, and I guess that's also noir, but it felt very Heat, obviously, very, like, very Tony Scott, Ridley Scott-esque. Like, there's elements of different like old school 90s and 80s aesthetics in The Dark Knight. And even though it was gritty and, like, dark, it still felt almost clean. And in no way is that a complaint of The Dark Knight, but there's this very clean sheen that in the Dark Knight, particularly the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, that feels very overproduced in a good way, because obviously I have nothing but good things to say about the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, despite that being people's least favorite, I think, even more so than Batman Begins. But with the Batman, Robert Pattinson's, it was gritty, dirty. Like, you felt like if you walked through that Gotham, you'd probably need fucking tetanus, because it just felt grimy and dirty and filthy. And so I hadn't seen a take like that in the comics. Aside from, like, you know, what is it? The Batman Dark Victory and The Long Halloween. But even those are very stylistic, because they have very much that 80s feel, you know. Catwoman has her purple and black, and it's just very classic Batman, but it's still crime oriented. This feels like it was like this almost feels arguably even more real than the Batman and the Dark Knight trilogy, because, well, first I'll tell you, the story is basically Batman there's an imposter in Gotham City, and he is dressed as the Batman down to the fucking hockey pads, and that was terrible, down to the fucking hockey pads, and he's going around Gotham taking out elites of different crime families, and he's also just taking out, like, murderers, and he's fucking them up, quite literally destroying them. Murder. And there is some of this art is gorgeous. I might like take shots of this and then spruce it through the video as I talk. Film head. And Batman is basically on the lookout for this guy who is basically, you know, the imposter. And obviously it's painting Batman in a very, very dark light to everyone in the media in Gotham. And something happens in the beginning. I don't want to spoil too much, because I do want people to go out and get this. I genuinely, even if you don't read comics but like Batman, I think this is such a great, awesome, unique take in the comic sphere that I feel like this is worth the pickup. But essentially Batman is hurt, and he goes to his therapist, who sees him without a mask, and she, knowing who he is now, pretty much holds him accountable for therapy sessions. She says, "You're Bruce Wayne, and you're doing this. Have you any idea that your actions, or have you any idea the effects that your actions have on Gotham?" And it's pretty fucking wild, because I don't think in any live action media have we ever had anyone hold Batman accountable for his actions and, like, really explore his psyche, besides just, like, the typical usual, like, we all understand that Batman is irreversibly fucked up. That is what makes him so interesting. Especially in The Batman, we get this, like, angry angst Robert Pattinson, Bruce Wayne Batman, and we understand that he's, like, irreversibly fucked up. And so I'm excited to see what Matt Reeves does with the rest of the trilogy, because I want to see that exploration of him further. But we've never had another party aside from Alfred hold Batman accountable, or Bruce Wayne particularly, for the actions of the actions that he's committed on these, or the actions that he commits to at night in Gotham when he's fighting crime and putting these fucking asshole criminals in the hospital and paralyzing them, most likely. And so this therapist basically tells him, okay, well, I want to get to the root of this. There's got to be a way for me to dispel this sense of justice that you have, that's self-appointed. There's got to be a way for me to keep you from making any more bad decisions that will further turn the city into turmoil. Like, do you really think you're fucking helping? And Bruce Wayne, of course, absolutely believes that what he's doing is 100% right. And we've never had that conversation about, is it right? We've never had it. And definitely not this in depth in any of the films. So that's a really great talking point. I do think that they get very deep into his psyche, deeper than we've ever explored. And I would almost want a journal, a written by I don't know, someone who really knows the character really, really well, to write a journal that he writes himself about his psyche. And homie's got to have, he has an insane amount of OCD, obviously, but he also has to have some form of ADHD for sure. Like, my man's is just in a moment's notice willing to drop everything just to be Batman, no matter what he's at, what he's doing. Like, there's elements of his personality that kind of border on monomaniacal or DID, right? Like, he's, I bet he disassociates when he's having normal conversations with people. He's got to have these moments of like mental lapse or out-of-body experiences, not to mention the numerous amount of concussions that he's probably had in his life that probably fuck with his neural pathways. Like, there's so much that we can explore, and I would love to have a journal that just like is just about him writing his shit. Like, we get to like, he's like, yeah, I was beating this fucking criminal and it felt so good, I was like slightly aroused under my utility belt. Like, anything that would be amazing. But neither here nor there. This is the closest thing we'll get to that. And that was my favorite part of the book, funny enough. This idea of like, the therapist knows who he is, and she's using it against him to get him to go to therapy. She's like, if you don't come at this time on this day every week and you're 1 minute late, I know your name, I know your identity, I'm telling the police. And it was kind of nerve-wracking every time he would be like in the middle of an action sequence or something was happening that could prevent him from being there on time. And I was like, oh no, this bitch is gonna tell him. So I genuinely loved that element of the story. As far as the side of the story with the imposter, it's a more general story about how like the justice system is really fucked and fried, and how Batman's way of catching these goons and then putting them in the justice system and then them coming out just to repeat and become repeat offenders. This imposter his thing is like, he's basically the Punisher. He's like, this is what the Batman should be. And the only way that I could get away from this, and you've got to imagine, why not just do this not dress as Batman? And if you really want to think deeply about it, Batman is an idea, he's an icon, he's a symbol. There are probably people out there who go and root for him but wish the Batman would cross that line because they're so tired of living in such a dangerous city. So imagine if someone dresses Batman gets the votes of those people because he's committing to those actions, right? It's like, it's interesting because it's kind of like a presidency. I'm not going to get political on this channel at all, but because that's not my thing. But I think it's really cool that you have two different Batmen. One as true to Batman as it comes in, and the other one a what if kind of Batman who can commit these atrocities, and would the city agree, and what it would mean for the justice system. And though it doesn't go that deep, it still asks the right questions and it invokes a sense of conversation. And for me, that's like the biggest thing, is like Batman is so much more than just like sad goth boy. You know what I mean? Like, he is in fact, and I mean sad goth. Bruce Wayne is nowhere near a goth, but internally he is in fact a sad goth boy. I probably ruined Batman for some of you. I'm so sorry. My point is, I think this book points the conversation in the right direction as far as like the meaning of the character, and is he healthy? Like, we don't ever really question heroes for what they do, because we're always, we always expect them to be the simple symbol of righteousness and all this shit. But like, there are characters out there, Batman being one of them, who are human and push themselves if they're doing they're doing right by the city, they're not doing right by themselves, whether it be physically or mentally. They're exhausting themselves. Or the Punisher, he's probably doing right for himself, because this is from a very deep-rooted sense of like, yo, my fucking family's dead now, everyone's getting, and he probably feels great for the most part. He's a little fucking off, but the city's not okay with it. It just inspires a kind of right interesting conversations that I don't feel are had enough about Batman. And I would love to see Matt Reeves kind of go in this direction as far as talking about his psyche more, although I'm very excited. I think there's rumors that the Court of Owls will show up and pop up in the Matt Reeves Batman 2, which would be amazing. I think that would be a great way to create a distinction between the Dark Knight's trilogy and his trilogy, because I do feel that if both of them are focused on crime families and gangsters and human antagonists, I feel like at some point there's going to be nothing to differentiate them aside from just the pure aesthetics of it. And obviously The Batman is a much slower film and much longer than any of the other Batman films in the Nolan trilogy, but I still think like when people think of them, they're still comparable. They're grounded Batman, and I feel like having something like a cult that would lean the aesthetic more towards horror would do so much for the Matt Reeves verse to really spin it not just into like the mob boss crime saga that he's labeling it as, but also into this sort of culty, weird, pseudo psychological place that like Batman should be. And so if he does this for Batman 2 and he does it for Batman 3, I have a very good feeling that is going to be my favorite Batman thing ever, period, because I am a big fan of the Batman as a whole, as a film. So that and this are some of my favorite Batman things ever. So definitely pick this up. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about this, raving about Batman Imposter. Also, I don't know if any of you are comic book savvy, but some of the people involved in this were Mattson Tomlin, who is a creator and screenwriter on Netflix. Project Power, which I saw with Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. What an interesting project to go spin out of. We got Andrea Sorrentino, award-winning artist and co-creator of Gideon Falls. And they also were involved in the Black Label hit Joker: Killer Smile, which I have but haven't read, and Jordi Belair, who was involved, and I believe he was the illustrator, in addition to color work on Batman Detective Comics, Joker, Killer Smile, The Vision, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Homie has a great fucking he has an insane little IMDb of graphic novel works, so that's really cool. A lot of credits. Anyway, pick it up. It was fucking awesome. And then until the next one. Peace. I guess I should say it since I got enough videos up. Like, subscribe, and shit. That's never gonna sound right.